right, let's dive in. Today we're exploring the costs of serviced apartments and offices in Singapore.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, you sent over some really in-depth sources. Prices, amenities, popular locations, even tips for getting the best deals. Stuff that anyone traveling for business or thinking about setting up shop in Singapore would want to know.
Definitely a lot to unpack there.
Okay, so first things first, our sources say serviced apartments start at about SGD 3,500 a month.
Right, but that's just a starting point.
Like with hotels, there are factors that can bump that price up, right?
Absolutely. It's not just the size of the apartment. Location and amenities play a huge role. Think of it like booking a hotel room.
Okay, I see what you mean.
A luxury suite with an incredible view, that's going to cost way more than a standard room.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
So then, location-wise, our forces mentioned some pretty popular spots. We've got Orchard Road, Marina Bay, River Valley, Bugis.
Each with their own vibe and price range, of course.
I bet. Orchard Road, for example, I imagine that's prime real estate.
You got it. Think of it like Singapore's Fifth Avenue. High-end shops, prestigious address, that sort of thing.
So anyone looking for that exclusivity, they're going to pay a premium.
Right, exactly. Businesses and individuals who want that address are driving those prices sky high.
Makes sense. And then what about a place like Bugis? What makes that attractive?
Bugis offers a different kind of experience.
More laid back.
More vibrant, more local. You really get a feel for authentic Singapore.
And presumably that translates into more affordable serviced apartments.
Exactly. You get to experience a different side of Singapore without breaking the bank.
Interesting. Now, I'm sure some people hearing serviced apartments might be thinking, well, why not just rent a regular apartment?
Right, a good question.
So break it down for us. Serviced apartments versus traditional rentals. What are the pros and cons?
It boils down to flexibility. Serviced apartments are perfect for shorter stays, for folks who don't want to commit to a long-term lease.
Makes sense.
Plus, you've got that all-inclusive pricing, which can be really appealing, especially in a city like Singapore, where costs can add up quickly.
All-inclusive. That does sound tempting. What all does that typically cover?
Think of it as a one-stop shop. Utilities, internet, regular cleaning, it's all bundled into one monthly payment.
No hidden surprises.
Exactly. No surprises. And often you even get things like gym access and a concierge service. Traditional rentals, you're usually on your own for all those extras.
And those extras can really add up, huh?
Especially in a city like Singapore, yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those who need a workspace, not just living space? Our sources mention service offices in Singapore have a huge price range.
Oh, yeah, it's quite a spectrum.
We're talking SGD 350 all the way up to over SGD 5,000 a month. What's driving that massive difference?
It all comes down to the same factors as serviced apartments, location, and what our sources call office grade. The closer you are to the central business district, the higher the price. And then office grade is essentially a measure of how luxurious the space is.
So a higher grade means?
Think a more prestigious address, impressive facilities, maybe even a stunning view.
Okay, makes sense. And speaking of business districts, our sources specifically mention Raffles Place.
Right, prime location.
They're saying it's about SGD 1,200 to SGD 1,500 per person per month. That's the heart of Singapore's financial district, right?
It is. It's where all the action happens, but that prime location comes with a price tag.
Naturally.
Yep.
So if you're willing to be a little further out, you could save a significant chunk of change.
Absolutely. Like our sources mention, a more suburban area like Tampines could be looking at SGD 600 to SGD 800 per person per month.
Wow, that's quite a difference.
Yeah.
All right, and then there are those office grades you mentioned. The sources break it down into grade A and grade B. What sets them apart?
Okay, so imagine this.
I'm listening.
Grade A offices, they're like the celebrity penthouses of the business world. Sleek, high-end buildings, cutting-edge facilities, premium addresses.
So grade A is about making a statement.
Exactly, but of course that prestige comes at a cost.
According to our sources, over SGD 1,200 per person each month.
That's about right. Then you have your grade B offices.
So what are those like?
Think of them like a comfortable, well-maintained apartment.
More down to earth.
Exactly. They're more cost-effective, maybe in slightly less central locations or older buildings, but still perfectly functional and presentable.
And significantly more budget-friendly, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Our sources say they're usually around SGD 800 to SGD 1,000 per person per month.
Okay, so we've got a good grasp on the different types of spaces available, but let's dive a little deeper into the benefits. Why would someone choose a serviced apartment over, say, a hotel? And what makes serviced offices stand out from traditional office spaces?
Well, with serviced apartments, it's really about getting more for your money, especially for longer stays. Hotels can be great for short trips, but they lack that home away from home feeling.
Right.
Serviced apartments are fully furnished, often with kitchens, so you're not stuck eating out every night.
So it's not just about cost, it's about having a space that feels like your own.
Exactly. Now, for serviced offices, they're all about flexibility and convenience.
Okay, how so?
They specialize in those short-term contracts, which is a huge plus for businesses that aren't ready for a long lease.
Right, that makes sense.
And just like with service departments, you get that all-inclusive package.
There it is again. Remind us what that means for offices.
It's everything you need to just get down to business. High-speed internet, meeting rooms, reception services.
So you don't have to worry about all those little logistical things.
Exactly. It's a really streamlined way to get your business up and running without all the hassle of setting up a traditional office space.
Okay, so both options have some pretty compelling benefits. But let's say I'm convinced and ready to book my space in Singapore. Any insider tips for getting the best deal?
Well, the internet is your best friend, but you have to be smart about it. Booking platforms like Booking.com, Agoda.com, TripAdvisor, those are great starting points for comparing prices and amenities for serviced apartments.
Makes sense.
Oh, and don't forget to check the property's own website directly.
Why is that?
Sometimes they have exclusive deals that aren't listed anywhere else. It's like finding a hidden treasure.
I like the sound of that. Okay, so comparison shopping is key. But what about negotiation? Is there any wiggle room on those prices?
Negotiation is always worth a try, especially in a competitive market like Singapore.
Okay, any specific tactics?
Well, for serviced apartments, you'll probably have more leverage if you're booking a longer stay. Don't be afraid to call them directly and ask about special rates.
Good to know. What about serviced offices? Any negotiation tips there?
Your best bet there is to focus on the lease terms and the amenities. Be clear about what you need and what your budget is.
So basically be upfront and see if they're willing to work with you.
Exactly. A little flexibility on both sides can often lead to a win-win situation.
Great advice. But before we get too carried away with finding the perfect place and negotiating a great deal, we need to talk about hidden costs.
Ah, yes, those sneaky little things.
What should our listeners watch out for?
With serviced apartments, be very careful about utilities. Make sure you know if electricity, water, and internet are included in the price they quote you.
Because sometimes they're not.
Sometimes they're not. Also, check for any limits on things like internet usage or additional charges for things like extra cleaning.
So it's really about reading the fine print and asking those clarifying questions up front.
Exactly. And when it comes to serviced offices, meeting room charges can be a big one.
How so?
They might seem like they're included, but there could be a limit on how many free hours you get, and then you start racking up fees. Parking can be another hidden cost, especially in those busy business districts where parking is scarce and expensive.
Okay, so it's all about being vigilant and avoiding those unexpected charges. All right, I think we've laid some solid groundwork here in this first part of our deep dive. We've talked about different types of spaces, what affects costs, and even some negotiation tips.
It's a good start.
But we're not done yet. We'll be back with part 2, where we'll go even deeper into some specific details and uncover some more valuable insights. Stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive on serviced apartments and offices in Singapore.
Ready to keep uncovering those hidden gems?
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. One thing that really stood out from our sources was the need to compare prices.
Yeah, really do your homework before you commit.
It's so important, especially when there's so much potential for savings.
For sure. So for those looking at serviced apartments using online platforms like Booking.com, Agoda, and even TripAdvisor can be really helpful, right?
Exactly. They're great for comparing prices, seeing what's out there.
And then for serviced offices, there are sites like WeWork and Regus that can give you a good overview.
Yeah, those are really useful for getting a sense of what's available and what you can expect to pay.
But you also mentioned checking the property's website directly.
Right, because sometimes you'll find exclusive deals or discounts that aren't listed anywhere else.
So it's like a little secret sale?
Exactly. A little extra effort can go a long way.
I love it. Okay, so comparison shopping is essential. But what about negotiation? Can you actually haggle on those prices?
Negotiation is always an option, especially in a dynamic market like Singapore.
So it's worth a shot.
Absolutely. For serviced apartments, if you're planning a longer stay, don't hesitate to ask about special rates. Give the property a call and see what they can do.
So longer stays could give you some leverage.
Definitely. And then for serviced offices, you can often negotiate on the lease terms and amenities.
So be clear about what you need and what you're willing to pay.
Exactly. Sometimes a little give and take can make all the difference.
Great advice. Now, before we get too excited about booking that perfect space, we need to address the elephant in the room.
You mean those hidden costs?
Exactly. Those pesky charges that can really throw a wrench in your budget.
Tell me about it.
So for service departments, what are some of the biggest culprits?
Utilities can be a big one. Don't assume that electricity, water, and internet are included in the price they quote you.
Oh, so you really have to double check.
Absolutely. Some places might have caps on internet usage or charge extra for things like housekeeping.
Okay, so reading the fine print and asking clarifying questions is crucial.
Couldn't agree more. And with serviced offices, meeting room charges can sneak up on you.
How so?
Well, they might seem like they're included, but there might be a limit on how many free hours you get, and then you start paying extra.
Ah, I see.
And parking can be another heading cost, especially in those central business districts where parking is at a premium.
So it's a real game of spot the hidden cost.
It really is. You have to be on your toes.
Okay, we've talked about costs, benefits, those potential hidden traps.
Hmm?
But how do you actually choose between a service department and a serviced office? They both sound pretty great.
I know, right? It really comes down to a few key considerations. Think about your lifestyle and how you work best. Do you need a separate space to work and live, or do you prefer to have everything under one roof?
I guess some people might feel more productive with that clear separation between work and home.
Exactly. And then there's the nature of your work. Do you need a dedicated workspace for client meetings or team collaborations, or are you more of a solo operator who can work from anywhere?
Right. That's a
Yeah.
big difference. And of course, budget always plays a role.
Always. Figure out what you can realistically afford and then prioritize the features that are most important to you.
So do you need a spacious apartment with a separate bedroom? Or would a cozy studio work? Do you need a private office? Or would a shared workspace do the trick?
It's about figuring out what you can live without and what you absolutely need. And then there's the location, which is always key.
Right. Location, location, location.
Exactly. For service departments, think about your proximity to things you enjoy: restaurants, shops, entertainment, maybe even parks and green spaces.
Because even if the apartment is amazing, a bad location can really ruin the experience.
Absolutely. And then for serviced offices, location is all about being close to clients, business partners, and transportation hubs.
So being in the heart of the action can be beneficial for certain businesses.
It can, but it also usually comes with a higher price tag.
So maybe exploring those up-and-coming neighborhoods with good connectivity could be a good strategy.
It's all about weighing the pros and cons.
So do you go for that prime address, or do you save some money and maybe discover a hidden gem in a less central location?
Exactly. Singapore has so many amazing neighborhoods, it's really worth exploring all the options.
This has been so insightful. One thing that struck me from our sources was this emphasis on overall value.
Yeah, it's not just about the price, it's about what you're getting for your money.
Right, those added conveniences and the flexibility, those things have value too.
For sure. And I think it's also important to remember that this market is constantly evolving.
So what works today might not work tomorrow.
Right. The way we work and travel is changing so quickly. The demand for these flexible, well-equipped spaces is only going to increase.
So staying informed and being adaptable is more important than ever.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to ask questions and get advice from people who know the market.
All right, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about.
We have, but before we move on, there's one more crucial topic we need to cover: the contract.
Ah, yes, the legal stuff.
It's so important to read the contract carefully and understand everything before you sign on the dotted line.
No skimming allowed.
Definitely not. For serviced apartments, make sure you're clear on things like the lease duration, termination policies, and any associated fees.
Right, because those details can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And then for service offices, pay close attention to the terms around using the space. How many workstations do you get? What's the meeting room access like? Are there any restrictions on operating hours?
So it's about making sure everything is spelled out clearly and there are no surprises down the line.
Exactly. And if you have any doubts, don't hesitate to get legal advice. A well-drafted contract can save you a lot of headaches in the long run.
Okay, so be proactive, ask questions, and make sure you're completely comfortable with the terms before you sign anything.
That's the best way to go about it.
This has been incredibly informative, expert speaker. We've covered so much ground and given our listeners a really comprehensive overview of serviced apartments and offices in Singapore.
I think so too. Hopefully they're feeling more confident about navigating this market.
Me too.
Yeah.
But hold on, our deep dive isn't over just yet. In part 3, we're going to shift gears a bit and talk about some practical tips and real-world examples to help our listeners make those final decisions.
Sounds good. Let's get to it.
Welcome back to our final deep dive into Singapore's serviced apartments and offices. We've talked about the market, uncovered hidden costs, and even mastered the art of negotiation.
Now it's time to put all those insights into action.
Exactly. Let's help our listeners find that perfect space. So, starting with serviced apartments, what are the must-have features our listeners should prioritize?
Well, location is always key. Think about your daily routine and what's important to you. Do you want to be close to the hustle and bustle of the central business district?
Or maybe closer to those lively areas with restaurants, shops, entertainment, that sort of thing.
Right, because even if the apartment itself is perfect, a long commute or limited access to amenities can really impact your experience.
Makes sense. So location is top priority. What else should we consider?
Think about the size and layout. Do you need a separate bedroom, a living area, or would a studio apartment be enough?
It really depends on who's going to be using the space and what their needs are.
Exactly. And then there are those essential amenities that can make or break a comfortable stay.
Like a well-equipped kitchen, if you plan on cooking.
Absolutely. And a comfortable workspace if you're working from home. High-speed internet is a must these days.
Oh, definitely. And don't forget about laundry facilities. Those can be a lifesaver.
And 2047 security. Peace of mind is priceless.
Okay, so we've got location, size, and amenities covered for serviced apartments. Now let's switch gears to serviced offices. What should we be looking for there?
First impressions matter, so pay attention to the office layout and design. Does it feel inspiring? Does it promote collaboration?
Is there enough natural light?
Right, all important things to consider. Think about what kind of space you need. Do you need private offices, meeting rooms, communal spaces for brainstorming?
It's about finding a space that reflects your company culture and work style.
Exactly. And don't overlook those included amenities. High-speed internet, printing services, IT support, those are essential for any business these days.
Especially in today's digital world.
Exactly. And having access to well-equipped meeting rooms can really boost collaboration and networking opportunities.
Right, it's about having the tools you need to succeed. And then, of course, there's the location of the office.
Just like with service departments, location is crucial. Think about being close to clients, business partners, and transportation hubs.
Being in a central business district can be a big plus.
It can, but it often comes at a higher price.
So maybe exploring those up-and-coming neighborhoods could be a good strategy.
Definitely something to consider. Now, I think online reviews can be a valuable resource when choosing a service department or office.
Yeah, those can give you some real insights.
People who have actually stayed or worked in those spaces, websites like TripAdvisor, Google reviews, even social media can be helpful.
But it's important to take those reviews with a grain of salt, right?
Absolutely. Not every review is going to be accurate or reflect your experience. Look for patterns in the feedback and focus on what matters most to you.
It's about getting a balanced perspective.
Exactly. Use those reviews as a starting point, but do your own research and visit the spaces in person if possible.
Okay, so we've done our research, we've narrowed down our choices. What are some final tips for booking that perfect service department or office?
Well, planning ahead is key. Book in advance, especially if you need specific dates or amenities.
Last-minute bookings can be tricky.
And more expensive, so don't wait till the last minute. And clear communication is essential.
Like letting them know your arrival and departure times.
Right. Any special requests, dietary restrictions, accessibility needs, make sure they're aware of everything up front.
So set those expectations early on.
And don't be shy about asking questions. If you're not sure about something in the contract, the payment terms, or cancellation policies, ask for clarification.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more information you have, the better.
All right, any final words of wisdom before we wrap up our deep dive?
Choosing a service department or office is a big decision. Take your time, do your research, and find a place that really fits your lifestyle, work style, and budget.
It's about more than just meeting your needs. It's about finding a space that inspires you.
Absolutely. Whether you're a seasoned business traveler or company looking to expand, Singapore has so much to offer. Embrace the flexibility and convenience of service departments and offices and make the most of your time in this amazing city.
Wonderful advice. Well, I think we've covered it all.
Our listeners should now feel confident about navigating the world of service departments and offices in Singapore. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery, and a huge thanks to expert speaker for sharing your insights and expertise. Until next time, happy exploring.